To the Point with Michael Williams.
For the second time in 2 years, Palm Beach County voters are being asked to raise their school taxes. The last one paying for construction equipment. This one meant to pay for teachers' salaries and security. Good morning and welcome. I'm Michael Williams. School officials say they do not have enough money to keep up. Joining me now to discuss all that, Palm Beach County School District Chairman Chuck Shaw. Sir, we thank you for being our guest this morning.
Thank you. My pleasure.
It will be the Palm Beach County school referendum question that people will look for on the ballot, or perhaps already have, as early voting is well underway. We understand this would raise about, over its 4-year life, about $800 million in total, so roughly $200 million a year. What precisely would it mean, and what would it pay for?
Well, the first thing is it's the very last item on the ballot. Okay. So my suggestion is go to that one first and then turn to the rest of your ballot so that you do get a chance. Four things. The first one on the list is this continues what the voters approved over the last 8 years, which is money for 650 teachers for art, music, and physical education.
Right.
That continues that. The second part is that this would provide us money to increase our teacher salaries. Palm Beach County and state of Florida teachers are paid among the lowest in the entire country. I think we rank now number 45. This would give us a chance to increase those salaries, retain teachers, hire the best teachers that we can possibly find, and help make them want to stay here in Palm Beach County.
And talk about school security. Of course, after the tragedy in Parkland, statewide law passed, signed into law about school security, which meant more security guards, hardening our schools. How would this help pay for that?
This is one of the most critical parts. When the legislature passed the bill last year that created the need and the requirement for school police, one of the concerns we have is whether or not that can be sustained over a long period of time. These funds would allow us to continue hiring additional officers to make sure that the level of service that we're providing in each one of the schools is enough. It would give us a chance to make sure that we have adequate equipment, have all the police cars we need, all of the equipment that they need. And then the final part of it deals with the mental health component.
Talk about that.
The mental health component, we have a shortage nationwide of guidance counselors, school psychologists, and then outside services for children who are desperately in need of mental health service. These funds would allow us to increase the number of guidance counselors, kindergarten through 12th grade. We would be able to expand our services with psychologists so that their role could be expanded.
What happens if you don't get the money, if the vote doesn't come through for you?
Well, the first thing, we would be laying off immediately 650 teachers in fine arts.
Now, these are the teachers brought in for the fine arts type programs. They're gone.
Yep.
They're gone.
They would be gone.
No question that you'd have to lay them off. You couldn't save them through other parts of the budget.
I'm not sure there's any possible way we could ever do it.
I want to talk about the money it would mean. $100 million would supplement those teachers' salaries. We're talking about teachers with 5 years experience, about $1,000 a year over 4 years, 6 to 9 years, roughly $5,000. Teachers with 10 or more years experience, roughly $10,000 a year increase for the duration of the tax, which again is 4 years. Are those numbers correct?
Yes, it's 4 years. It automatically sunsets in 4 years.
The question is, why use a non-recurring money? It's 4 years for recurring expenses. Some say that's a patchwork job and you're just going to be coming back to the voters in 4 years.
There's no way that we couldn't agree with it. It is a difficult issue. Since the state has cut back funding for education over the last 10, 12 years, we're in a position where we have got to meet the needs of our county, and fortunately, we think the public's willing to support that.
Now, in 2016, voters passed 1 cent sales tax that helped raise money. It was part of a countywide issue, but as part of it in 2016, voters in Palm Beach County helping raise money for new roofs, air conditioning, other infrastructure projects. In 2014, a property tax that, as you alluded to, paid for those 650 art, music, and physical education career tech teachers. That would go away under this, but some are going to say, how many times do you come back to the well? And to the voters who say, wait a minute, this is coming back asking too much too soon. What do you say?
Well, I think it's two things. One of them is we shouldn't have to be in this position. This is a result of inaction at the state level to adequately fund education over a long period of time. And we have to take into consideration the impact that we had of the recession. The second part is that the funding that was put in for school safety, there's no assurance
at
that
the state level,
at the state level,
of the law.
There's no assurance that that money will be reallocated year after year after year. The other part is the money we're asking for will stay right here in Palm Beach County. It's not going to be distributed statewide. This is money that would be totally committed to the residents of Palm Beach County and our children.
And by the way, we know we have a Martin County issue on schools. We'll be talking about all of that in a run-up to elections for our Treasure Coast friends, but concentrating on Palm Beach County now. For the homeowner, the average home, I always hate to get into those numbers because the numbers vary a lot, but let's use the $225,000 figure. The owner of a $225,000 roughly median home in Palm Beach County with a homestead exemption of $25,000 over 4 years would be seeing roughly a tax increase of about $150 a year. Talk about that.
Absolutely. It's a small amount. It's going to dinner one night a month. It's a small amount that has a tremendous impact. If you think about it, everything that we do in our school system is so emotionally charged because we're dealing with the lives of children, parents, teachers. We're dealing with people's lives. And if we can do anything that we can to try to help make sure they're safe, to have the best quality education, I think it's worth that commitment.
Your argument's not even $1 a day.
Exactly.
Far less, actually, from your perspective. But I do have to ask a question. A lot of people say, listen, I'm not part of the county school system. My children go to a parochial or private school or a charter school, and we'll talk about the charter school aspect in a moment. What do you say to the constituents here, many retirees perhaps, who say, I'm not part of the school system, why should I be having to hike my taxes yet again?
I think it's part of our public responsibility that we owe that to our community. Every one of us went to school and somebody was there behind us helping support us. You know, I have family that have been in charter schools, private schools, and public schools. And I get the question being asked all the time. But I think it's a matter of making that commitment for us to say it is important to educate our children because that's the economic future of Palm Beach County.
Did you hurt yourselves? And I know it is a contentious issue about public school and charter. A lot of concerns in public schools that charter schools, because of what state lawmakers have done, are taking resources from public schools away. Nonetheless, the school district decided not in Palm Beach County to spend any of this money on charter schools. And for some, that's a contentious issue. Some argue you should have included them so that it allows people the maximum choice. But you did not include charter schools. Why not?
Right. For me, it's a really simple issue. The first part of it is that there are many charter schools that don't offer art, music, and physical education. So it makes no sense to put funding in those charter schools to use for something they don't offer. An example would be those that are online schools. They don't offer those services. The second part is that there's no accountability at this, that we have to ensure that $1 of those funds would ever show up in any one of those charter schools. They could be given to management companies to use the way they see. There's no assurance it could be used for, that it would be used for any of the reasons that the voters are being asked to do it.
And talk about the age-old broader issue as we tie all of this together. People say, well, tight times, maybe you have to do without. Talk about, from your perspective, the vital importance of the arts and physical education. Some will say, well, without it, you just have to get back to the basics, reading, writing, and arithmetic. What do students ultimately lose in terms of their growth without this kind of money for the kinds of things it's paying for that at least some may argue you could do without if you had to? From your perspective, what do they lose?
And I don't think it's a case that we could ever do without it because we have to. I think we have to have the arts. We have to have, if we're going to have a society that grows and it is nurtured, we need to have the benefit of the arts. Because look how technology's changed. We need to be able to have those kinds of programs in our schools for our kids. And even in the area of physical education and the need for us to be active and doing things for wellness. This is all part of what a good, broad, wholesome education is. This is why we educate children. It's for not just the reading, writing, and math, but it's for the entire picture of getting an education.
A holistic look at the student.
Totally holistic
and all the aspects that make them a fully informed student. Final closing thought.
This is an investment that every one of us in Palm Beach County has to say, we do believe in educating our children. We do believe that that education is important, and we're willing to give up a little bit every month to keep the money in Palm Beach County, to use it, to be accountable for it, and to see our county continue to be one of the best in the entire state.
Palm Beach County School Chair Chuck Shaw, we thank you for coming and offering your perspective on one of these ballot questions. As we continue to move closer to Election Day, we'll be following this. Of course, all the ballot issues coming up. You already perhaps have voted. Millions of you have. We'll talk about that and more with our roundtable when I come back.